Hi, good morning. This is Ted from The Devil's in the Detail. And as some of you already know, I've got this Ferrari Portofino in for wash damage. Now, it literally has been washed with a scouring pad. Some of it is lighter than others, but there are some really deep scratches in the car. The whole car needs to be wet flatted. I'm going to try the best I can to show some of the damage. And these are not normal wash swirls, they're deep scratches. It's all over the car except the middle of the roof. Obviously the chap's niece, who apparently washed it, couldn't reach the middle of the roof, so it was basically saved from danger. Still got to be polished because the outsides are scratched, but you know, it's so like I say, the car's got to be wet flatted. Now, some of these really bad scratches are going to take a lot of removal. So I'm going to do a test piece, and I think I'm going to start at the bonnet, which this area of the bonnet appears to have some really bad damage. So I'm going to start. I'll show the process I'm going to use. I'm going to check the paint readings. I'm going to mask everything off. I mean, somebody's been here before, and there's white polish paste and it's all over the grill. You know, it's all inside the grills, on the edges, and we have washed this car 3 times to get it out the rubbers, and I'm still finding it. You know, we've been round and thought we'd cleaned it, but obviously it needs some more. But I have to say that her coverage of the car was quite good. She didn't miss much. There's some etching there as well, so we'll be getting that out. But I'm going to start with a test piece. I'm going to mask the car off. I'm going to mask each panel individually at the time I'm doing it, because I don't want the tape left on the car for a period of time. And I would guess that this bonnet, this size, I'm probably got 2 to 3 days work just on the bonnet. So I don't want to leave tape all over the rest of the car, because the longer you leave masking tape on, the more the glue sets in and it's harder to remove. So I shall mask off the individual parts that I want masked as I go around the car. All the lights have been scratched as well. The rear lights are quite bad. You know, the whole car's bad. You know, it's probably the worst damaged car I've ever had to try and recover. And it's a big challenge, because even I'm looking at it wondering whether I can recover it. So you know, it's one of those. Anyway, I'm not going to keep going on about it. You can see the sort of damage we're dealing with. You know, it's blatantly obvious. So I'll film some of the rectification. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun and games and a lot of videos of this as we go along. You know, and I reckon there's at least a month's worth of work to put it right. Just depends how they come out, because normally I wouldn't want to start off any coarser than you know, sort of 2000 grit. So I'm going to try it with 2000, but some of this is deeper than what that'll get out. So you know, it's just, we'll try it, see. I'm sure we'll be all right, given the time and the effort, and there is no time limit. So off we go. I'll see you later. I've now masked up the edges of the panels and this lip, and I've left about 3mm from the edge, because the edges are always going to be thinner paint, so I want to protect them as much as I can. Done the same on the edge of the bonnet, and this is the sort of bird's eye view of what I can see when I'm looking down the panel. So first I'm going to check all the paint readings, see what they're reading, and I'll show you that in a minute. So this is Ted from The Devil's in the Detail, and yes, I'm still on the bonnet. The bonnet is taking forever, but there is an extreme amount of damage to the bonnet, and it's taking a lot of work to get it out. Now, while I'm working to get the scratches out, I've still got to be mindful that we don't want to damage any of these edges, and as you've seen, I've masked off the edges from both sides on the bonnet, so that I can do the heavy work without flicking over them edges. And then when I'm going to do the last two stages of the polishing, I'll remove the tape and we'll go over the whole bonnet. Now, there's even more problems that I've got to face on the bonnet. Once I've polished all of the bonnet, and you know, it is going to be, you know, a magnificent finish when it's done. You know, compared to, I would imagine, when the car was new, it'll be better than that. But because it's going to be so shiny, it's going to show up everything. If anything I've missed, and I'm going to try and just show you, this is what runs up the swage lines, these ticks where the scouring pad has been run over the curvature that's here in the bonnet. Now obviously I've protected this edge all the way through, but at some point I'm going to have to try and improve them. I don't think I'm going to be able to get them out, but you know, goes all the way up both sides of this middle flute on the bonnet. So that's going to have to be done with a lot of care. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the flatting on this part of the bonnet, and that's got 3 more stages of polishing to do, flatting, before I start cutting it. I've got the driver's side section about that size to do on the middle, and then I can remove all the tape and start working on them ticks that run across that swage line. Once I'm got them to a satisfactory, and I don't think it's going to be perfect, but then I can start doing the last 2 stages of polishing on the bonnet. But there's still a lot of work to do on this bonnet. It seems to be taking me forever, but it's had extreme damage, and these things you can't rectify safely if you just go mad at it. If I was flatting it to have it painted, that would be a different thing, but what we're trying to do is to save it without painting it, because you imagine how much it's going to cost to repaint this whole car, and the damage is the same all over. The only part that escaped was the middle of the roof. So basically we just got to go around with care and as much time as it takes. You know, there's no end date on this. It's finished when I say it's finished, but hopefully I'm going to get it to a really good finish, and save the owners a lot of money with not having to have it painted. So I've brought you along this journey and wanted to show you that, you know, these are things that detailers really have to get involved in and do take a lot of time. You know, it's I could have just showed you the befores and afters and it looks shiny, but I wanted to bring you along with the journey that I'm having, putting it right. It takes a lot of time, a lot of patience and some skill to be able to do it, and you know, to do it without damaging anything, you know, when it's this extreme is really, really difficult. And I still don't know till the day it's finished whether I'm going to break through anywhere. I'm doing my utmost not to, but you just never know. So we'll just crack on and let's see how it goes, and I'll give you an update later. So thanks for watching these and being along for the ride. I appreciate the comments I've been getting, especially on YouTube. You know, and it does make you feel, you know, when something's taken a long, long time, I wouldn't say it gets boring, because it's never boring, but, you know, having nice comments gives you a little bit of a boost and encourages you to get on with it. So thank you very much for everybody who's been following this and leaving nice comments. So I'll see you later. Let's get on with some flatting. See you soon. Well, I've managed to get, I think, every scratch out of this side of the bonnet, and when I finished at the front of there, I came down onto the nose of the car, and I'm now flatting my way round the front bumper, and working my way down to the rest of this part. Get some of the awkward ones out the way early. I've gone up onto the front wing where there is, as you can see, there's loads of bad scratches. And there's still some on the edge there. Got to be careful near the edges. But just working my way down. But just had to go and get another sheet of the 2000 flatting paper because it's just eating it alive. But slowly making some progress. Right, I'll see you a little bit later. Good afternoon, it's Ted from The Devil's in the Detail. The Portofino's finished now. Just wanted to say a few words about what it's took to get the car back to this condition. And there's a couple of things that I probably couldn't have done, well, I definitely couldn't have done the job without. And the most important thing is firstly having enough lacquer on the car to be able to flat the car back enough to get the scratches out. And without your paint depth meter, you'd be really chancing your arm flatting any car really if you don't know what you've got to play with. So the most important tool for this job has been the paint depth meter. Now it's been flatted in 4 stages as I explained during the videos, and I've used a mixture of wet and dry and Trizac wet to take it down to a finish where I could see whether I'd actually taken the scratches out enough to polish it. The problem is, I've explained before, as soon as you touch the flatting paper on the scratch disappears visually, and you have to flat down to a position to see whether you've actually flatted enough off to remove all the scratch. So by doing it in 4 stages and taking it to 6000 grit, it leaves it with enough of a reflective shine to be able to see whether you've got the scratch out completely before you start polishing. Which gets me to the next most important for me, is the Menzerner range of polishes. I have got more of the range, but this is the range that I've used on this car. I've used the 1000 heavy cut Menzerner on the initial cutting of the flatting marks. Then I've used this, you know, a mixture between the super heavy cut compound 300 and the heavy cut compound. I've used a mixture between them depending on, I suppose, how heavy the scratches are in that particular area, where I've had to really flat deeper. Has took a little bit more polishing out. For the medium cut polish, I've decided on using the medium cut 220 or 2200. This actually cuts and gets a good finish. Not that we finish off with it, but you could, in theory, although it will leave it a little bit cloudy under good scrutiny. And I always finish off with the 3800, and I haven't found a compound that leaves any better finish than this does. And I've been using Menzerner now for 10 years. Tried all the others over a period of time, but I always go back to this. And I find that whether I'm using a rotary or an orbital, they work just as well. Now on this car, I've only used orbital. I would normally finish down with a rotary for the super fine, but I didn't on this job. and I've used the Rupes wool, Koshken wool, and FlexiPads heavy cut microfibers, and then I've used the same makes in the finer finishing. Now with the 3800, I think I used the Chemical Guys black foam pad for the finishing, and the finish is exceptional, and you know, I'm as pleased with any job I've ever done. Now the car isn't 100% perfect, as you know by the previous videos. All the swage lines have been masked and have only been not tickled but lightly polished to, when the scouring pad's gone over the car, it's gone over the swage lines as well, but you can't keep flatting and polishing swage lines because it'll break through. So if you really look, you can still see very slight lines on some of the swage lines. Some of them have got out with 6,000, like flatting with 6,000 grit. And probably 98% of the car is as perfect as you can get it, and 2%, you know, if you really scrutinised it and you knew what you was looking for, you'd probably see the little ticks on the swage lines. But I'm not going to compromise the whole job by trying to get a few ticks out of some of the swage lines and press lines, or whatever you want to call them. You know, you break through on one, it ruins the whole job, and it isn't worth chasing after that last 2% to ruin, you know, a really good job that outside in the natural light you're not going to see any of these marks. We only see them because that's our job. We know they're there. I know they're there because I've flatted every scratch out the car. Sometimes you have to know when to stop. This has been a very, I suppose, mentally tiring job, because, you know, whenever you got flatting paper on a vehicle, it's knowing when to stop, and you know, it's so easy to break through the lacquer if you're not concentrating, and it has took a lot of concentration. It's been 5 weeks, well, just under 5 weeks work. I've said previously, if I was flatting the car for it to be re-lacquered or repainted, you haven't got to worry about breaking through. So, you know, you can just, I could probably flat this car in 3 or 4 days if it was going to be repainted. But we're not trying to do that. We're trying to be really fussy, really gentle, and ease all the scratches out. This has probably saved a £30,000 plus paint job, and you know, if you can't be happy with that, you're not going to be happy with anything. Personally, I think the car looks incredible, you know, and I'm sure people could come along and find these ticks and criticise, but if you'd have seen the car in the flesh when it arrived, you'd probably, you know, it's chalk and cheese. So I'm happy that I've got it to this stage, and like I say, you know, you need the tools to help you achieve this. Yes, there's experience involved, and I've done it for years, but you could tell by the way that I've done the protection, taping off the lines and that you can't take anything for granted, no matter how much experience you got. You know, I've tried it in the past and I've broke through, and it's an expensive lesson. So, you know, we try not to do that again. Also, you know, this is, many of my customers are return customers, and they trust me and know that if there is an incident, that I will get it done. and they won't be able to tell any different when they get the car back. But you know, when you get a new customer who don't know you, they haven't had time to get to know you, you've just got to be careful and protect yourself as much as you can, which I did with this car. And if you've watched the series, you know how it's been done. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to make the car look incredible again. You know, if it had had less paint or less lacquer to work with, it wouldn't have been able to be done. So I just thought I'd show, you know, the tools, you know, used really. The paint meter is the main tool, you know, checking all the time. Every time I've flatted anywhere, it's been checked and checked, and it's paid off. All the checking all the time, you know, when you're doing it you think it's never going to come to an end, but when you end up with a car with this finish, you forget about all them worries that you've had for a few weeks. You know, you've got a product that you could be proud of, and I am proud of this job. It's probably been the hardest job I've ever had to try and recover, and I think it'll be a long time before I see another car that's damaged as badly. And so, you know, I just wanted to say a few words for the final video, because I probably won't have to sit here and do this again for a while. So I hope you've enjoyed watching the journey of me and this car, and appreciate the amount of work that we put in to doing this sort of a job. And you know, a lot of people think detailers are glorified valeters. Well, I can tell you now, that's not the case. You know, we work hard at our art, you know, to do these things, and people just see the befores and after. Normally they don't know how you've done it or what you've had to put into it to get it like that. All they see is the shiny car when they come and pick it up. And you know, we're not valeters, we're detailers, and we're proud of being called detailers. So for everybody who's been watching, thank you very much, appreciate it. You know, it's really appreciated. Those that have subscribed to the YouTube channel, really appreciate that. It helps us get noticed more than anything. You know, it doesn't earn us any money. We're never going to have enough following to earn any money, but the more people that understand about detailing and what our industry does, you know, the more likely we are to get more cars to do. You know, it's not like running it down the road for a 10-minute valet at the side of the road. We do the job properly, you know, and we try and make it durable so it lasts longer and the finish lasts longer. You know, it's you know, it's a totally different thing to valeting, and me personally don't want to be associated with the word valeting. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, and now I'll show you the finished car. So thank you very much. See you soon.